Just when it felt like the royal storm was finally losing its grip, something explosive cracked open behind the scenes, and suddenly all eyes snapped back to Harry and Meghan. Not because of what they did, but because of what they reacted to before anyone else even had the chance to read it. A book, not released, not fully seen, yet somehow already powerful enough to trigger a full-blown defensive strike. Why? That's the question no one can stop asking. Because the moment those first whispers leaked, the reaction didn't come quietly, it came fast, sharp, almost panicked. And that's where this story stops being simple and starts feeling like something much deeper is hiding in plain sight.
Well, he's brainwashed, but Meghan's very clever. I mean, don't think for a moment that she's not convincing quite a lot of people, especially in America and in Africa and the Caribbean and elsewhere.
So the two idiots respond to Tom Bower.
I choose people whose lives are shrouded in mystery and they've climbed the greasy pole. They want to be famous, they want to be influential, they want to be powerful, they want to hide their secrets, and I just love digging away to find out what they don't want us to know.
And here's where it gets unsettling. The book hadn't even landed in stores, yet just a handful of early excerpts were enough to ignite tension across royal circles like a match dropped in dry grass. Within hours, the Sussex camp fired back, labeling the claims as deranged, melodramatic, even obsessive. But wait, think about that for a second. If something is truly ridiculous, truly baseless, why rush to shut it down before anyone even reads it? Why not let it collapse under its own weight? Instead, what happened next only poured fuel on the fire.
Meghan Markle, a liar, manipulator, and a fraud. That is the conclusion you can reach after reading some of the excerpts from Tom Bower's new book about Harry and Meghan and their battles against the royals. And it really is quite revealing about who Meghan actually is and how really she tried to pull one over on the whole world.
Suddenly, a story that barely had oxygen was everywhere. Headlines multiplied, conversations exploded, curiosity skyrocketed. And just like that, the very reaction meant to bury the narrative may have accidentally elevated it into something far bigger. Almost like shining a spotlight directly onto the pages no one had even opened yet. And inside those pages, claims that don't just whisper, they provoke. Allegations of tension, unease, shifting dynamics behind those carefully managed royal smiles. The kind of quiet discomfort that doesn't show in public photos but lingers in private rooms.
You are an Invictus.
Why I'm here?
Yeah, why are you an Invictus? Sure, really? Yeah? That's why you came to see? Or is it because you know Harry and Meghan were going to be here today? Yeah.
One detail in particular didn't just raise eyebrows, it sent shockwaves. The suggestion that someone at the very top of the royal hierarchy allegedly described Meghan's influence in a way that feels almost unthinkable. A word loaded with implication. A word that instantly divides opinion. And of course, the denial came just as quickly, just as forcefully. But by then, the damage, or depending on perspective, the intrigue was already done. Because once a statement like that enters the public conversation, it doesn't just disappear. It lingers. It echoes. It spreads. And the silence from the palace, that only deepens the mystery.
And just because some story about Meghan Markle brainwashing Harry comes out, you're going to respond? So that means it's real.
No denial, no confirmation, just that familiar, calculated quiet. And in royal history, silence has always been its own kind of statement. But the deeper you look, the more this begins to feel less like a single controversy and more like a pattern slowly revealing itself. Because this isn't just about one book, it's about what that book is tapping into, a timeline of tension that may have started long before the world realized anything was wrong.
She had all the time Scotland Yard protecting her, and all the time people speaking on her behalf. So it's a complete lie that she's perpetuating. But I do think they're convincing. I think that people will believe this confession.
Go back to the beginning. The excitement, the global fascination, the fairy tale narrative everyone wanted to believe. 4 figures standing together representing a modern future for the monarchy. The Fab Four. It looked perfect. Too perfect. Because behind that polished image, according to these accounts, something else may have been unfolding quietly. Doubts. Questions. Concerns that didn't make headlines at the time, but now, looking back, feel like early warning signs hiding in plain sight. And then comes a moment that changes everything. Not confirmed, not denied, but impossible to ignore. A meeting meant to calm tensions, spiraling into something far more intense. Words exchanged, boundaries crossed. A flashpoint that, if even partially true, suggests the cracks were already deep, already spreading. And suddenly, that shocking split in 2020 doesn't feel so sudden anymore. It feels like the inevitable result of something that had been building, quietly, steadily, behind closed doors. And here's the twist that makes this entire situation even more unsettling. The more the Sussex team pushes back, the more attention the story seems to attract. Every denial becomes another headline. Every rejection fuels another question. It's a cycle that feeds itself. And the closer the release date gets, the louder that cycle becomes. Because now, it's no longer just about what's in the book. It's about why the reaction came so fast, what triggered it, what nerve it touched, and whether that reaction revealed more than it intended to hide. The clock is ticking, the spotlight is growing harsher, and one thing is becoming impossible to ignore. This story isn't slowing down, it's just getting started. And just when you think the storm couldn't get any louder, it shifts direction, and suddenly the most explosive part of the entire story isn't a shouting match, not a public fallout, not even a dramatic meeting behind palace doors. It's a single alleged sentence. A sentence so sharp, so loaded that it slices straight through everything we thought we understood about this entire situation. Because if this claim is even partially true, then this isn't just tension. It's something far deeper, far more personal, and far more dangerous to the image of unity the monarchy has always tried to protect. The allegation that someone at the very top quietly questioned Meghan's influence over Harry, not publicly, not officially, but privately, changes the entire tone of this narrative. It reframes everything. And suddenly, the question isn't just what happened, it's who believed what was happening all along. And that's where things start to feel uncomfortable. Because influence is a tricky word. It can mean love, it can mean support, but it can also mean control. And once that idea enters the conversation, it refuses to leave. Now pause for a second and look at the timeline, not the emotional version, but the factual sequence that everyone has watched unfold in real time. Before Meghan entered the picture, Harry was seen as the relatable royal, the one who broke rules but stayed grounded, the prince who turned personal pain into purpose through projects like the Invictus Games. Then everything changed. Fast. Almost too fast. Within a few years, he stepped away from royal duties, left the UK, moved across the world, signed major media deals, and began speaking openly, critically about the very institution he once represented. That transformation didn't just raise eyebrows, it created a narrative that people are still trying to decode. Was this independence or was it influence? And why does that question keep resurfacing no matter how many times it's dismissed? But here's where it gets even more layered, because this isn't just about personal relationships anymore. It's about power, public image, control over narrative. The book doesn't just dig into emotional dynamics. It pulls back the curtain on how Harry and Meghan have positioned themselves in the global spotlight since stepping away from royal life. Streaming deals, branding ventures, carefully curated appearances. Each move analyzed, dissected, and debated. And depending on who you ask, these moves either represent modern independence or calculated visibility. That dual perception is what keeps this story alive, because no matter which side people fall on, everyone agrees on one thing: the spotlight has never left them. And then comes another layer of controversy, one that hits at the heart of something deeply symbolic: the Invictus Games, a project built on resilience, recovery, and honoring wounded service members, a space that was supposed to remain untouched by controversy. And yet, even that isn't immune. Because according to the narrative presented, there are whispers, just whispers, that at certain moments, attention may have shifted away from the athletes and toward the couple themselves. Now, that claim has been firmly rejected, strongly pushed back against. But here's the reality about claims like this: they don't need to be proven to have impact. They just need to exist. Once they're out there, they take on a life of their own. They become conversation, debate, division, and all the while, the palace remains silent, completely silent. No clarification, no response. Just that familiar strategic stillness that has defined royal crisis management for generations. But in today's world, silence doesn't quiet a story, it amplifies it. Because when one side is speaking loudly and the other says nothing at all, the gap between those two positions becomes a space filled with speculation. And speculation, especially when it comes to royal drama, spreads faster than facts ever could. Meanwhile, the public is watching this unfold like a slow slow-burning mystery. Every detail, every quote, every reaction becomes a clue. And the deeper people look, the more patterns they think they see. A relationship that shifted rapidly, a family dynamic that fractured publicly, a couple that walked away but never fully disappeared from the royal narrative. It's almost like trying to separate two stories that refuse to detach from each other. Because no matter how far Harry and Meghan move from royal life, the monarchy remains tied to them, and they remain tied to it. And then there's the reaction, that early, intense, almost immediate pushback that started this entire chain reaction. Because now, looking back, it feels less like a simple denial and more like a trigger point. Something in those excerpts hit a nerve, something specific enough to provoke a response before the full picture was even visible. And that's the detail that keeps pulling people back into this story. Not just what's written, but what caused that reaction in the first place. As the release date inches closer, the tension isn't easing, it's tightening. The narrative is growing, the questions are multiplying, and the lines between fact, interpretation, and speculation are becoming harder to separate. Because this isn't just a story about a book anymore, it's about perception, about influence, about power dynamics inside one of the most scrutinized families in the world. And the most unsettling part, we still don't have the full picture because the pages haven't all been turned yet. The full story hasn't fully surfaced. And if these early fragments have already sparked this level of reaction, this level of curiosity, this level of division, then what happens when everything is finally out in the open? What happens when every claim is laid bare, every allegation examined, every detail dissected under a global spotlight? That's the tension hanging in the air right now. Thick, unresolved, growing. And maybe the biggest question of all isn't what the book will reveal, but whether the reaction we've already seen has revealed more than anyone intended.